Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here all by my lonesome today. Tom is still out of town, and there's some breaking news that we wanted to touch on and get up and discuss while it was still new news and not old news. And that is the announcement that running back TC Caffey from Ohio State is entering the transfer portal. And he's a walk on. He's been around since 2022 when he's a true freshman. Kind of burst on the scene with I think a 49-yard touchdown run against Toledo, and since then people have been wondering, hey, could this guy get into the lineup? Could he be part of any kind of rotation? And due to injuries and then also depth chart, that was 2022 was the last time we've seen him on the field, and I don't even believe we saw him in the spring game on this past Saturday. So he has entered the transfer portal, which makes complete sense when you look at an Ohio State running back room that consists of three true freshmen who are all basically going to be ahead of him. And then, of course, two second-year guys in James Peoples and Sam Williams-Dixon and senior CJ Donaldson. So there was no path to playing time for TC Caffey. And so this makes sense for him, allows him to go in to the portal, which is still open for, it closes on Friday. So he's got time to find wherever he wants to be after that. You can only, the deadline is for entering, not finding a place. So he'll have time to shop around and see what he can find. And, he's an Ohio kid, so maybe he ends up somewhere in the MAC, plays there, and really just gets to play and can show what he does. And his hope was to walk on at Ohio State and earn a scholarship. And blew out his knee before he could before that could happen. And so then, just it was a long road back for him. And then when he was healthy, he's got a lineup of running backs in front of him. So it just never happened for him at Ohio State. And so he's off to somewhere else. The other transfer happened a few days ago, and it went very much under the radar, but will have more of an impact on Ohio State moving forward, is long snapper Morrow Evans, who was the number 2 long snapper in the 2024 class. And boy, don't stop rolling your eyes. Right now we're talking about long snappers. But the thing is, when we aren't talking about long snappers, that means things are going very, very well. When we do talk about long snappers, that means there's something to be concerned about. So when we talk about this, know that John Froman has been the starter for the past couple of years. Have we talked about him much? No. Is this his last year? Yes. So what Ohio State is looking at now is perhaps Morrow Evans, who was going to be the backup this year, is now gone. So they've got to replace him with somebody, and we'll see what they do this year. I think they've got enough there in terms of a backup for Furlman. But going into next year, what do they do? Are they going to be looking for again the best long snapper in the nation in the high school ranks? Is it too late for that? Are you looking for a transfer? And whenever there's a job available at Ohio State, people will enter the portal to see if they can be part of that. And so I think they'll be okay, but not knowing who that guy necessarily is going to be next year, I think is adds more concern than the loss of a walk-on veteran like TC Caffey. They know what they're going to do without him. Morrow Evans, you don't necessarily know what you're going to do without him. You hope you've put enough of a roster together that you can handle that. But it is an interesting little side quest on the Ohio State experience as we move from, we haven't even started 2025, but what happens once John Furlman is gone? And that's something that Ohio State will have to answer. If all goes well, you'll never know about it, basically. Unless you follow the roster and follow the things, the minute details of the long snapper. Yeah, if you never hear us talk about the long snapper again, then things are going just fine. So those are the two latest entries. As I said, the portal window closes on the 25th, and to have only a few guys go in now for the Buckeyes, and Nobody, no starters or anything like that to this point. Nobody looking for a bigger payday. It's been a pretty good offseason for Ohio State. Now, to go from pretty good to great, you need to make some additions. And the defensive end from North Carolina, Bo Atkinson, had a good visit. Mark Givler and I talked about this a couple of days ago or maybe just yesterday, in fact, on Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning. And things are looking good there. He's big, 6'5", 265-pound, uh, Bosa-sized defensive end. I'm not going to compare anybody in ability to a Bosa, but that's the kind of size, a Joey Bosa type of size there. And, he had 11 tackles for loss, 7 sacks last year, a productive guy, and things look to be going pretty well right there. Still trying to figure out what they're going to do at defensive tackle. It honestly does not look like anything major is going to happen there. But also, as of now, and again, this is probably the worst time to say it, they've been able to keep the defensive tackles that they have. And so there's some positives there, even though there's a concern about defensive tackle. There'd be even more of a concern if they lost guys and didn't replace them with anybody. So that's an even bigger concern. So right now, if you're not adding anybody, if you're not going to add anybody, you also don't want to lose anybody because you've got enough roster spots for everybody. So there's no reason to kick anybody out at this point. You need bodies. They need more bodies than they have, or they'd like to have more bodies than they have. So, if somebody is wanting to leave or thinking about leaving, you're not going to push anybody out. And for the defensive tackles, there's clearly there's an opportunity to play this year, and they know that. And it may not be 45 snaps or 50 snaps a game like Tyleik Williams or Ty Hamilton, but it's 20 snaps a game to build towards 40 snaps a game the next year or whatever, like just to establish themselves. And so there's an opportunity for those guys to get that done. Can they do it? That's the big question. That's the big concern. But it is not unheard of for guys to improve over the course of the summer and use the spring that they had. They all got a bunch of snaps and reps, and they presumably got better from that. And then they can build on that. So as long as they kept what they have, and it's better than losing what they have, but still, it's going to be a question mark going into the season. And until that question is answered, one way or another, it's going to be a concern for the Buckeyes. And so that will do it. There's the problem with doing these breaking news in the portal window is that you've got to hurry up and get them done before something else breaks. Because I can't just sit here and, well, let me give it 15 more minutes with you and see if something happens. So we wanted to get this up and get this out to you guys. That would do it. If you could hit the thumbs up, we would appreciate it. And as always, you can find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We'll be here. We're dropping videos, as you know, when news breaks, we're going to be there. And we're also talking about it at the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So go ahead and check us out there as well. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.